Hi, are you thinking about making the move to the suburbs from Chicago, Illinois, and you're not sure what it is that will be different and you'll have to get used to living in the suburbs versus Chicago? Well, I've got my top 5 list of things that you will need to get used to being a suburbanite versus living in Chicago. I'm Amy Pearson, a local realtor with App Properties. I provide weekly community videos on real estate as well as community information. All right, here's my top 5 list. They're kind of fun things that are a little unique about living in Chicago versus the suburbs. All right, my number 5 thing that you would get used to living in the suburbs versus Chicago would be not paying for bags. It seems kind of silly and kind of weird at first if you don't live in Chicago. But living in Chicago, you have to pay for every single bag, plastic bag or paper bag. If you go to the CVS, grocery store, there's a 7-cent tax on every bag. So it's kind of exciting when you move to the suburbs and you go to the grocery store. You don't have to pay for those bags. It's almost feel like you're stealing those bags. So that's something kind of exciting to get used to, is not paying for your bags when you go to the store. My number 4 thing that you would need to get used to when you move to the suburbs versus Chicago would be not having to second guess when you park on the street. When you park on the street in Chicago, you have to think about, what neighborhood parking sticker do I need to have? Is this a Cubs night zone game area? Is it street sweeping day? If you park on the street and any one of those things, you get a ticket or a towed. So in the suburbs, there really isn't permit parking, so you don't have to worry about as much when you park on the street. You don't have to second guess that you parked on the street usually. Number 3 thing that you would need to get used to, city versus the suburbs, would be that suburbs are not as walkable as the city. So living in Chicago, it's very walkable to walk to, say, the coffee shop, walk to retail places, very walkable community. Living in the suburbs, one of the biggest things you have to get used to is you need to drive to most places in the suburbs. So it's a little bit harder if you don't have a car to get around. There is a PACE bus system in the suburbs and many of the towns, but it's much easier if you have a car to get around. So that's one thing you'll definitely have to get used to being Chicago versus suburbanite. Number 2 thing that you would need to get used to moving from Chicago to the suburbs would be the restaurant scene. Living in Chicago, there's such an amazing wide variety of culinary restaurants you get to enjoy. James Beard winners, Michelin winners, Restaurant Row on Brandon Street is amazing restaurants. So that's one thing you'll have to get used to, being a little bit further away from those award-winning restaurants. But I will say in the suburbs, you can find almost every type of cuisine out in the suburbs. You can find Indian food, sushi, you can find Italian, every type of food that you can think of, you can find right in the suburbs. It may not be the top chefs and award-winning restaurants that Chicago has, but it's just a little bit different. You'll get used to it once you move to the suburbs. All right, my number 1 thing that you would have to get used to as a Chicago person moving to the suburbs would be that people talk to you when you go places or you walk down the street. It's a little weird to get used to, but you'll be going to the Jewel grocery store. People will still start talking to you in line about what it is you're buying and how your day is. They actually want to know about what it is you're buying. If you're in the city and someone talks to you, you just look down, you've got your blinders on, and you don't talk to people in the city. It's a big difference. So you will have to get used to the friendlier community, and people want to talk and chat about the day, the weather, what's going on in your day. So that's my top 5 things as a Chicago person moving to the suburbs that you would need to get used to. Some of them are kind of moderate, not that big a deal. Some of them it takes a little while to get used to. That's my top 5. I'm Amy Pearson, local realtor with App Properties, and please check out my next video.